I just want to quickly introduce you guys. First of all, Deepak. So Deepak Angrula is the Vice President of Engineering at Coverfox.com. And Coverfox, how do you know Coverfox? It's the one guy. Good. So basically, I think I'm not sure this is the right word, but you heard of policy bazaar? Yes.
See, that's embarrassing.
So Coverfox is one amazing startup that's based out of Mumbai, and very interesting kind of so they are online insurance aggregated by Mckinsey. And Deepak is a IIT Bombay alumnus, 2004 pass out. Electrical. Perfect. And Deepak is one of the he's a long time well-wisher of GreyAtom. All the curriculum that you see on the Python side, he has helped us build, iterate, given a lot of personal time and inputs to it. So Coverfox, and you can always correct this, Coverfox is one of the very few Python shops in Mumbai. So we have a lot of companies whose tech stack is Java, Dominant, or something else. These guys are very into that people. This is one of the most super awesome people that you will ever meet. I'm sure he'll come back at some point in time and interact with you guys, and we should take the opportunity to spend some time with him. He's on the edge of what he calls competitive programming at this stage. So he is at par, if not better, than what you really see in the value. He's as good as it gets. That's no way to kind of put it. Bada sahi banda hai. So that's a very simple way to put it. Then we have Jatin Solanki. So Jatin is the head of analytics at Coverfox. Perfect. And so Coverfox is one of those. It's a funded startup. It's a nice, once you get into the office, you get a very nice vibe. And so it's one of those companies where the analytics, the data science practice is in-house, and they have to kind of support the product, main business in a very strong way, very big way. And it's not like a services thing. Services में आपका project आता है, आप कुछ भी चेप चाप के बना के दे दोगे. These guys have no scope for that. And it's one of the most no-nonsense, analytics teams, data science teams that I've kind of come across. I think he himself is very to the point type. I think it comes across, it rubs off on the whole team. It's solving some very interesting problems internally. I'm sure he'll update all of us on what he's doing, especially the new venture that's shaping up. So amazing guy, close to 10 plus years of experience, doing a lot of things firsthand, building teams in data science and analytics. And we've been very lucky to kind of interact with these guys. And you will also get a chance to work on a lot of problem statements that the team himself has kind of worked out. And finally, we have Jacob. Joseph. I always kind of personal name. So Jacob is the head of data sciences at a company called as CleverTap. How many have heard of CleverTap?
Sorry.
So CleverTap is a they are like which make the example mixed one.
Yeah, sure.
So I think all your mobile apps, all your web apps. So I think the way Jacob kind of puts it is like there's Google Analytics. You're like Google Analytics plus. And they really do some fantastic kind of. So these are the people who have really done work with Book My Show and have really kind of done a lot of things. One very key important thing is CleverTap has its own proprietary internal database.
Yeah.
So it's not like they have taken some Mongo Prasada kind of a thing, but they completely built it bottom up. The kind of scale kind of scale of data that they get to see is huge, absolutely huge, and they are solving some unreal problems for this particular market, and they're just like really ahead of the curve, using good techniques, and they're doing some really fantastic things. So very glad to have all three of you. Thank you so much for coming. We just have a quick round of applause. So if you could just introduce yourself once again. I might have misintroduced you. There's something that you wanted to add.
Yeah. So I head engineering into at Coverfox, and I've been a Python programmer for the last 10 years. And so Coverfox is pretty completely stack in Python. At the same time, from a data science perspective, we also support the analytics team at Coverfox, and essentially we build data engineering pipelines for them to analyze data, for them to giving there are tools for them which they can allow them to access data in a so that is one of the side functions. And but personally also I've been getting more and more interested in data science from a career perspective also, and my GreyAtom is kind of result of that interest. And but mostly it's been I've been exploring. I've done a lot of academic stuff till now. I'm not been able to apply in a professional setting, but but I have done online courses and in data science and from machine learning to neural networks, and recently I've moved on to we started a new venture at Coverfox, where we are planning to set up a machine learning and a data science team, where I hope that I'll get a chance to explore a lot of these things in a professional setting. So if you want to speak to me about that offline, you're very welcome to. It's a different venture, and it's a new venture which we are just starting out.
Just if you could just help all of them with what your experience has been about.
So yeah, almost been a decade now into the analytics field, and so I've pivoted right from the so-called MIS, right? Such a loose and such a embarrassing sort of a word for us, but yes, that's how I pivoted, and I've started my journey with CleverTap.com, where I got a chance to set up the analytics and the transaction monitoring system. So it was a great experience, and thanks to people like Deepak and the other developers, where I got to learn R, right? I was very good in stats, very good in maths also, yes. I've learned my stats and finance from IMCAL, and so it was a great experience across all these ventures. I've also worked with a startup, MNC like a Goldman Sachs, and saw a lot of challenges, right? And in terms of, I'll not throw some models what I've implemented and deployed, and that you will learn. I can throw some names, neural networks, logistic regression. So there are a bunch of models you will learn. One of the key things which I've also been talking to Mayuresh is what is the implication on the business side is something what you guys need to learn. I am being a management student, I'm sorry, but I'm not an engineer. And I love to code but. So don't see it from just completing a project. But please ensure that you know what you're delivering, what is the impact on the business. I've seen a lot of marketing problems, I've seen a lot of customer related problems, also financial related problems. But you need to ensure that what will happen next, right? Just don't deliver the particular project. Please sit with the developer, please sit with the product guy, please sit with the business guy to understand what is the implication, right? To give you an example, so today I was reading a good post on analytics, right? So nowadays there's a new fancy term so-called, it's called artificial intelligence, right? Now if you decipher artificial intelligence, it's nothing but a neural network or so-called a deep learning, right? Once you progress in your course, you'll also learn about what is neural network and what is deep learning. Both are interconnected. It's just that the deep learning is nothing but a layer above of so-called neural networks, right? And everything will converge into neural network. That's what people say. Hard to believe, but that's what I will be dealing with, right? So one of the recent matches, I guess, a lot of male crowds, and sorry for that, but I'm sure people are match freaky and people have seen the recent match of India and Sri Lanka, right? So one of the posts says why artificial intelligence is not going to replace human intervention, right? So I'll just look at the score. In the second half of the Sri Lanka innings, right, the score predicted, or there is a score predictor normally which pops up into your screen, which says X percentage chance of winning a particular team. So it predicted 51% India is going to win that match. Okay. Now Sri Lanka gets into batting, hit a 4. Okay. That reduces the run rate, obviously. You know, the prediction now changes to 52% India is going to win. And one more example. You have heard about machine learning into the loans application, and so I guess Jacob can throw some more light because he's also come from the capital markets and also understands the financial products. Normally, if you see, nowadays people are coming, there's a lot of this loan company, right? So you apply, you put in your information, put in your demographics, your income, your age, where you stay, blah, 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 blah. There's a score given here, right? There's a one loop. If you say your salary has increased within past 3 months, your score decreases rather than increases. Don't ask me why. Right? I mean, there's an algo behind it. But that's where the problem is, right? So please be assured that artificial intelligence is not going to throw people, right? We are there, and people like you guys are going to take up that role, right? So yes, happy to connect with you guys. I have a bunch of problems and bunch of solutions also, which may help, may not help, but yes, that's me. Yeah.
I'm Jacob. So to give you a brief background, I'm not from engineering field or IT. So I'm from commerce background. Okay, did my CFA and then went as usual, and I went into investment banking, advised companies in the venture capital and private equity space. And my inclination towards analytics actually came because I was also handling a small derivatives fund. So we used to invest in the derivative segment of the equity markets, highly risky. So that's where I had to build certain models, which was not I couldn't just look at the fundamentals of a company or the technicals, but I had to build certain mathematical models. Thereby, my interest in towards the IT related stuff, the math stats related stuff, grew and grew. And after spending around 10 years, I called it quits and I took a career shift to data science. And I've been in this field since for 5 years. I took a lot of courses related to math, stats, IT, your object-oriented programming, right from C, C++. Then started building, took R courses, Python. I mean, this is with respect to IT. Math stats is a different story. And then about in 2015, I joined CleverTap, and we've been CleverTap for a couple of years. So just to give you a brief background on CleverTap, I mean, you must be having, we have around 4,000 customers worldwide. And in India, we have like good customers like Book My Show, Hotstar, FastSource, Sony Live, and there are various other clients. So what we do is that you have maybe a Book My Show, right? You visit your website, you visit your app, you launch an app. We help them track what you are doing on your app, the behavioral patterns. So you launch an app, right? Or you may visit a website. Then you maybe search for a movie. You may have 10 different movies you might have searched, and then you might have added to cart, or then you might have booked a ticket. So we will record all your history, and that is available to Book My Show on a real-time basis. So if you are currently opening an app of Book My Show, you would be seen on their dashboard. And we track like behavioral data, we track demographics, we can tell you where you have come from, which geography, what OS are you on, the technographics, what version of OS are you on. So whether you have logged on through a desktop or a mobile, stuff like that, and then you can run there is a lot of data coming in. So just to give you a brief stat, close to billion events on a daily basis is ingested into our system from across the globe. And also our clients not only use our system to just collect data, but also to analyze it. So we do real-time analytics. It's all real-time. So if you want to you have certain hypotheses. Okay, what's happening to suppose I want to look at people who have maybe launched an app and maybe looked at a certain movie and went on to charge. You want to create a, you want to look at that segment. So that's available real time, and then you can further analyze, what's the kind of revenues that this segment has been doing, and from what stage for each. Our center of universe is a user profile. So each user's history is logged by a system. So from the time you came in first into Book My Show, you can see what all you have done throughout your journey till date. And then you can also engage. So you can engage via push notifications, you can engage via email, SMSs, pop-ups, web push. There are various digital channels available. Now, to just give you an example, like IPL season was going on, and there was around in that 45-day period, roughly 15 billion people were reached. Okay, through push notifications, just through push notifications. And out of that, IPL was around 30%, IPL related tags. So in the message, there was some IPL. So that's how we mine the data. So right, so if there is a IPL tag, we mine it, we tag it as IPL. So there was some around 3 billion push notifications was just related to IPL. And there was one campaign which reached 50 million people, and that campaign was done within 10 minutes. So our system was that fast. So less than a minute to reach 5 million people. So that's the power of our product. And in data science, what we are trying to solve is basically something unique, which is there is a lot of data, right? There is mountains and mountains of data which is available for a client to look at. But the problem is when you are looking at data science, right? You are not just interested in the insights. You want that actionable insights. So to just give you an example is what is the difference between an insight and an actionable insight is say you travel by Uber, right? You might get some discount codes. Maybe you are an office goer, you take Uber for to just travel to office. But if you get discount codes only on the weekends, right? It's of no use, right? You have an insight that Uber sends me weekends discount. Fine, but you can't action on it. If you had gotten those kind of discounts within the weekdays, okay, now that's an insight for you. And probably, or you might have some search pricing, Uber has a search pricing, right? For me, I have seen that, if I book within like 8 to 8:30 in the morning, that search pricing is not, after that it really shoots up. So that's an actionable insight. I have to leave between 8 to 8:30, to avoid that. So the difference in data science is that there is a lot of information, fine, but you need to capture that actionable insight to make it worthwhile. So for us, for data science as such is, as a client, what can I do to make his life easy? So you have certain, you analyze certain things and you want to engage with certain people. You have a list of rules enlisted, which may come from your business domain. So okay, I want to reach to people who have not maybe charged in the past 30 days and who are from a specific region, who are on maybe iOS and maybe some other rules. Now, as human beings, it's really difficult, to fathom n different rules, right? The idea, the goal is to make your users to purchase, right? To increase your revenue. What if I take, given a goal, what if I take all the rules out of the system for the marketer to think? So he just needs to say, okay, now my goal is to increase the revenues, my goal is to get the people to charge in the next 5 days or in the next n days, and I want to increase my revenue by say 20% or 10%. But that's a goal, right? Now, I'll mine the data, I'll build models over it, and I will give you, okay, now this particular segment is looking very good. These are the kind of people who are likely to charge, go after them. The historical performance has been very good. Now and maybe I give them 2 more segments in the decreasing order of, propensity to transact. Now, these guys are maybe less likely to transact, the other guys are least likely to transact. So basically leaving, removing the complexity out of the whole system. The job of a data scientist is to make the complex simple, not make the complex even more complex. Okay, so understand that. So always, whenever you approach a problem and when you make a solution, that solution should be simple enough to understand. So that's our role, making the complex simple.
So I think just to begin, start with, say, Jatin. Over the last 2 to 3 years, what are the biggest changes or shifts that you've seen with respect to kind of work that you do, and the whole community as such? Are there some remarkable changes that have come through that just doing very different things?
Yes, of course. So nowadays, what I've seen is in past couple of years is people used to, I mean, especially on the marketing side, if I look at the way people market their particular product has completely changed. As you rightly mentioned, that we may also use systems like CleverTap to just understand and personalize the service. To give you an example, what earlier used to happen is when there is a customer who has purchased a flight ticket, for example, right? And people used to just get a spam emails on number of hotels. There was no intelligent marketing. But what has happened is over the past couple of years, or maybe 3 or 4 years for that matter, I've seen that personalization has come into a picture. That personalization could be using a clustering technique or could be any number of propensity techniques, right? So that is something which is very great, and I personally believe it's going to change the way we are going to market a particular product, right? So to give you also one more example, just to add to that flavor, is on the cross-selling products, right? So look at example of Coverfox. So we sell general insurance products, right? So you can buy your car insurance, you can buy your bike insurance, you can buy your health insurance, and so on and so forth. The only thing is, the problem is, it's not a recurring transaction, right? You're just going to buy it like once in a year. Now I need to ensure that I don't just blast this particular email or email box with all the numerous emails like buy bike, buy health, buy do this, do that, right? So what we've done is just by learning in the past what we have done, number of cars, say for example, a Maruti car vis-a-vis a Honda or a Skoda car. Now if you look at the Maruti car segment, people are price sensitive, right? Now no one's going to invest or no one's going to buy a Maruti product more than 10 lakh rupees. People say, okay, let me move to Honda, let me move to Hyundai. So that's how we have actually learned segmenting the customers, and that's the kind of change what we have done. So one of the techniques is, as I mentioned, is the clustering. So what we do is now we identify which cluster is going to buy bikes. So if I know that there are certain customers like Harley Davidson customers bought a bike insurance, I know that he is going to buy a car or he has a car. I'll push car product to him, right? So these are multiple combos what we have used and come up with the marketing sort of analytics, right? So that's one. On the other side is what we have seen is a lot of this websites, if you look at the e-commerce or they started trying to come up with a recommendation engine, right? So that's again a beauty part of it. So people try to understand, maybe try to associate and build the rules around it. So if you buy, for example, an iPhone on Flipkart, immediately within a minute or so, you start getting an email on the iPhone covers or maybe on the iPhone accessories. That's the great part. That's again part of personalization, right? So it's pretty relevant to you, right? So that's kind of shift I've seen in terms of how you market a particular product in the recent past.
Okay. So basically, one, like, because I come from software, what I have seen is that one change across the industry, not just India, because I mostly follow what's happening in Valley and all, is that more and more the software ecosystem is geared towards analyzing a lot of data, and we have seen a lot of data pipeline softwares coming up. So right from the companies like Facebook, Airbnb, all these companies, they are building their own data pipelines, and a lot of information is coming from there. For even for a startup, to how to start making sure that everybody gets access to data. So in the past, we used to have we do is like you open a replica SQL server someone and just give them a SQL. That's a good solution for probably a smaller size. But when you have start aggregate different kind of data, not every data is equal. You have multiple ways of SQL data is your product data, but you may have data on server uptimes or user activities, which may not really fit into a SQL kind of database. So how do you combine all of this data and put it in a form where any person in the company can start playing around the data, having just exploring, even starting before analyzing, just looking at exploring the data. So this is something I think is now becoming more and more standardized and more easier. And we have multiple examples of multiple ways of creating data engineering pipelines. And from a software perspective, I have started looking at people who are good at building those data engineering pipelines. So not just, so we had earlier front end, back end, and kind of engineering. Now we also have a data kind of stack, people who are good at building data backends. So this is something that I see in software engineering, and from a, not just from a team building perspective, but also from a how companies look at data, how the data is, will be, how you provide access to data across the whole company.
So one thing what I've seen change since the time I had joined CleverTap is that the engineering team and the customer success team, they are all now getting data savvy. Everyone is now trying to talk the language of data. So even when they pitch to the clients and all that, so even the clients, I mean, when they create the event design and when they constantly interact with the clients, I mean, they are also constantly educating the clients. So they are also now slowly, everyone is becoming a little data savvy. And that trend is going to go up. So it's very important that you need to speak the language of data. That's a continuous uptrend that what I have seen in the past 2 years. So yeah.
And just extrapolating the same question, where do you see like what are the key changes that will unfold probably 12 to 24 months down the line? Do you expect any major disruption or trend that you see right now is what is happening on the
12 to 18 months may be a little short, but if you take a little longer time span, I think as you see a lot of automation coming up in various jobs, I mean, after a certain point, I think the job of data scientist also will be automated to a large extent. Okay, so I mean, there are still now there are certain things wherein with respect to data processing part which can still be automated. We can like data pipelines and all the stuff. But it's happening, and it is only going to increase. So so right now, as there's a saying that data scientists 80% of the time goes in data preparation, and before you build a model, right? So there is a lot of space available in that 80% wherein it can get automated. So probably I see over a longer time span, a lot of this stuff will get automated. So what I see is that the data science, how do you grow within that field is that try to make the impossible possible. In the sense, try to think of things wherein you think that this is where data science cannot be applied. But yes, if you get into that framework, how can I make this possible? Then you will get to that stage. Don't be fixated on okay, this is a data science problem which was solved. Now I'll only try to improve it further and further. Probably by the time you reach there, these things could be automated at a faster rate. So think about things wherein out of the box and wherein things cannot be done as of now. How can I achieve that?
I guess he in fact covered a lot of points. Yes, automation is something which is the next project which is going to come up, and a lot of people like maybe like, since I closely work with Deepak, because any field, data science or analytics or anything, we have to be closely working with the technology team. One of the biggest problem what we see currently in the industry is so as two people have already mentioned about it, like the data pipeline stuff, right? I'll give you one of the examples why it is happening. Now, if you look at it from the developer side, the pressure on him or the team is to build a software or build a system which is very light, okay? So which is more performance savvy, because no one wants to load their CRM system and takes like ages to load, or ages to load a website, ages to buy a particular product. Now, the reason for this, what happens is the way they code it is a lot of your data fields are stored into JSON and HStore, right? I'll just give you a precise example. So any form, if you go and fill up your form, so maybe your address or maybe a proposal form of particular insurance product, it is all stored in the JSON. Now, to decipher that, we require automation. Now, there are a lot of tools which is coming up, which is the ETL tool, right? which converts, which automates. But again, there's a lot of human intervention required. Because is it getting stored in a proper manner, right? Once it is stored, then we start consuming it, right? Then we start the explanatory analysis. Then we come up with the project. Then we come up with analytics. To give you one of the examples, SPSS come up with the latest version of the modeler. It's almost there for 5 years now. The good part about this, now how some of the problems can be automated is you upload the data and you run a couple of models, or maybe you just select 5 to 6 models. Or sometimes you can just run the model. It runs 5 to 16 variations, or maybe 5 to 25 variations. It will give you the best model, the best fit for the particular data, right? What you have to do is just upload it, deploy it, and that's it. Your job is done. Now, where is your job? Okay. So you need to understand, first of all, I may like this product, I may not like this product. Right? Because I don't want a system to figure out which model it should select. And the problem of the system selecting a model, for example, is overfitting. Please understand, please do a tattoo of this word, overfitting. Right? Overfitting is something people try to push it. But as an analytics person, I would say don't go for overfitting. If there's any model, for example, which you're getting an accuracy of maybe 70% or 80%, just be stop there only. Don't try to achieve that 80-90%, right? So a lot of things, yes, automation will help, maybe like down the line 12 or 18 months or maybe two years from now. But I guess one of the biggest problems right now which will be automated is the data accumulation part. Multiple sources, like for example, take an example of Coverfox, right? We deal into multiple sources. We have Google Analytics, we have mixed panel, we have AdWords, we have internal event logger, we have a CRM system, we have a sales system, right? Though everything is in-house, but the way it is stored, considering the performance of each and every application, right, it's pretty weird. I will not blame Deepak for that. But he's helping me to get the data in place. So that is something I guess which will automate and make our life pretty simple.
Just to add what Jatin says, another area where a data scientist will be quite helpful is that in what form the data is given to that model. Okay, now that's also very important. So suppose, to give you a simple example, if I put a model which has like predicting a binary 1 or 0, and my data set is such that I have only only from a particular region that data is coming, and that the proportion of that region is quite high compared to some other regions. So then you will get that model might not be that strong. So the data preparation and what form the data goes to that ultimate model, that's also a key area where a data scientist, the automation still might not cut the ice over there.
So can we just, you help us, what is a typical hiring process at CleverTap and Coverfox for the data science? What do you typically look for into a person? And if you can generally broadly comment on companies that you use for services and product-based companies.
Okay, so in data science, I mean, I was doing some freelancing earlier with respect to data science, but my first job is with CleverTap, so I don't have a past background to talk about analytics as such. And see, generally what we look at students is that first of all, they should be able to code. Because however, I mean, even if you are a PhD, right, but you need to express your ideas in the form of code. Okay, so that's one thing. Secondly is your basics should be strong as respect to maths and science. If you are given even if you are given a simple linear regression model, are you able to decipher and explain to us in simple layman terms what the output of that linear regression model is? If you are able to do that, then you know the fundas clearly. If you are able to do it in simple, I don't want any technical terms. If you are able to do that in simple business, suppose a marketing guy who doesn't know anything about models, right, comes to you and asks you to explain to me what's happening. You should be able to explain in clear business, simple terms. Okay, so if you are able to do that, then fine. I mean, that's the next step. So I think these are the two key things that, your fundas should be very clear.
Yes, I guess, again, basic is something which is very, very critical for me. So whenever I recruit a data scientist or try to take an interview, my first question is, sometimes people also laugh for that question, but it's fine. I ask, what is log 0? Right? That's the first question I start with. The reason for that is, if you don't understand the basic of your statistics for that matter, of course, coding is, which is prerequisite. We want people who can code, but again, we don't want someone who has done some Python stack, who has written multiple lines of code. We don't look at that. A person needs to know how to apply and where to apply it, right? I've seen bunch of people. So what I do is I start throwing some examples. I start throwing some business case studies, right? So here is the problem and how do you try to solve it? I just look at the approach. It's a mathematics, right? I mean, you can multiply it n number of times, you can add it n number of times. The answer could be the same thing, but you need to understand the kind of approach a person is looking into, right? And if it's accurate, I guess he has passed the interview, right? But normally I take a lot of time to clear particular candidate for that matter. But yes, it is very, very critical. So please ensure that your stats is good, your maths is good. Coding, again, if it is okay, we can still look into it. And that's precisely what people do. Even when I was in consulting, the first precise point was, as you rightly mentioned, that how do you simplify a problem? Because in the consulting piece, when you try to do a pitch and pitch about the solution, right? Pitch not about the sales pitch, but you're pitching to a client and you're explaining him what is the solution you've built, what is the equation you've built. The kind of questions what comes up is sometimes ridiculous also. But again, as a partner, you need to answer all these questions. So please, you need to understand how do you decipher things. Don't put equations, right? I mean, you're good with the equations, but please understand the management are not good with the equations. Now, internally, what happens is when you guys also grow in the data science field, normally what happens in the MNCs or even for the startup, it's pretty simple. Just convince people like Deepak, right? I mean, we just have a couple of smokes, couple of beers, if the project is signed. But what happens is on the MNC side, you need to actually sell your project. You need to sell your solution, right? There are team members sitting across. There are sales guys, marketing guys. Why they will invest in your particular project, right? And I'm sure the kind of things you need to decipher. It's like telling them I'm taking 2 and I'm adding 2 and the answer is 4. Thank you. Okay, that's the kind of things you need to do. But yes, please don't laugh. This is the things you need to do actually as a data science. You're going to sell your project, right? And now if you look at, just Google it, I'm sure you'll do a lot of analytics project, case studies. The success rate is just 30%, right? If I'm not mistaken. 30 to 40% is the success rate in the market. Not every project you take is a success project. And anything for that matter, even the consulting, for that matter, internal stuff. So we don't look. Please ensure that not every project will be a successful project.
So you also have worked in roles where you work for services.
Yes.
So can you just comment with something like that?
So service, yes, we briefly covered on that. On the services side, it's pretty different, right? So for example, you go to you apply for a data scientist role or a data engineer role in Deloitte, right? So I went there in Deloitte, and I applied there for a AVP analytics. The first thing when I entered into the reception area, I said, yes, please have a seat, and we just had a coffee. I got a sheet of questions. I got a sheet of questions. I told, okay, I need to fill this. Yes, you need to fill this. I give you exactly 1.5 hours to fill this. Okay. The first line of the question is say, these questions are for data analyst. Okay. Let me call the HR. Okay, is this for data analyst? No, it's across, right? Even though you're joining as a partner, you need to understand. So that's the thing. What even people like Deloitte or Mckinsey or Bain or any consulting firm for that matter, they handle your basic stuff, right? They have even asked me questions like, can you come up with a SQL query which applies an inner join, right? I have to write that if I have to clear the interview. I have to write that. You know why? It is good. Sometimes I feel it's nice because please ask basic questions, right? And even I've seen people applying categorical variable. People are coming with some logistic regression. Oh, sometimes it's great, but it doesn't help. As Jacob rightly mentioned, what goes into what model is very, very critical. Even though a person has not done it, see, no one is going to do all the projects. No one is going to do all the analytics techniques. there are more than 200 techniques. Right? But when you go to the service line, the service industry part, okay, look at the basic stuff. Look at how you try to convert a client. And if you talk about, if you're a business guy, right, and you have a couple of 3 consulting firms, you have Deloitte, you have ABC, and you have Mckinsey for that matter. ABC is a tier 2 sort of a consulting company. Everyone knows logistics, everyone knows neural network, right? So there's a different level of selling. The selling is nothing but how do you simplify it. Now, if you work in a company where you're a client and you take a presentation from McKinsey, right? I don't know how many people have seen the McKinsey contract. Have you seen the McKinsey contract? Anyone did get a chance to see the McKinsey contract? Okay. So McKinsey contract, in the second page, I don't know the para exactly. They say that if the project is failed, you are not allowed to reveal that it is failed because of McKinsey. That's the reason in Google you don't see any failed projects of McKinsey. You don't see. Can you Google it and say that what are the failed projects of McKinsey? No. You'll only see what are the success projects of McKinsey. And it also says, if it is successful, please put it on your website. Thank you to McKinsey. Right? So that's how service industry works. That's a beauty. Right? So I'm serious, right? I'm serious. I've seen the contract. I've seen the contract. I work with this guy. I have a lot of colleagues working with McKinsey. And there people laugh, right? I mean, but that's how the business is.
And with respect to hiring at say entry to builder, you went to a very people say, what's the typical process like? You just put a block diagram. This.
So I'll go to very basic, right? The entry level sort of role. So I look at only one thing, which is rather 2 things, right? One is your passion towards analytics, and the other thing is the right ego of a person, because that's where I think so everything revolves around. So I'll give you one beautiful example, and I'm very proud of that. So I was sitting and I was having a smoke on the cafeteria at CleverTap, right? And this really happened, right? You can actually call that girl. Her name is Neha Chauhan. She works at CleverTap, and she was a call center girl. She used to take calls, do the telesales part. She approached me and she told me that, hey, you know what, Jatin, I want to join your team. Mela, why? No, you are constantly revolving around CEO, so I like that. Mela, hey, that doesn't work, right? That doesn't work. So no, I was just joking. The real part is, I actually want to learn numbers. I want to come up with dashboarding stuff. I want to actually come up with some analysis. She was not so passionate about the analytics because at that time it was growing. But what I looked into is, I gave a couple of examples, the basic Excel test, the basic stuff, and how a person approaches the same thing which I mentioned. She was able to solve that. Amazing, right? At that time, CleverTap was clocking around 2009. CleverTap was clocking around 450 crores of sales in a year. And now she's managing the entire MIS and analytics, so-called, of a 3,600 crore of company, right? So great stuff. But she had the passion. So one thing for me is, if I want to block it, the first thing comes, the biggest thing is the basic and the passion towards the analytics. Second thing is, does the person understand what it is, what he's getting into? And then obviously it is followed by the technical skills. But we don't emphasize more on technical skills. Come on, it's the basic stuff. Even if you're a college pass out, you're not going to learn how things move around into a corporate level. So we actually keep that aside and focuses more on basic. That's my focus actually.
So maybe I only hired software engineers, but as Jatin pointed out, that we're not looking, if you're hiring for a data scientist, it doesn't mean you have to be a great programmer. You have to be a decent programmer. I think because you're not building software which is directly going to be user facing, and sometimes data scientists will build models. They build models in maybe R or Python, and then when the code gets deployed to production, it anyway might get changed the production stack of that company. So maybe if you have a Java stack, but you're building models in R, anyway the deployment pipeline is going to be very, very different from how you do. So you don't have to be a great programmer to just build models, and but you have to be very good at understanding fundamentals. So definitely if I'm hiring a data scientist, I'll definitely take a programming test. It may not be same as what I would give my backend developer, but I would, but understanding simple things, very, very simple things, and how to code simple programs, and from there you move on to understanding techniques. How do you understand building models? The most common models, regression, logistic regression. These are the mostly used stuff. So just getting a fundamentals right. I think this is what your approach should be. And but don't forget to learn how to look at data. So sometimes we always when we talk about data science also analyzing data, but it's also very important to just look at data from what we call as exploring the data. And you will study in your course how to there are various techniques to look at just exploring the data. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in a company where you can just derive decisions from just looking at data. And I'll give you 2-3 examples of how just looking at data before you start modeling you can derive decisions. So at Coverfox, we decided to, for example, when you make a web product, one of the most important is where users coming from, and a lot of users come from mobile, different browsers, and if you want to support, if you're like Google, you have to support every browser on the earth, or even if somebody is using IE6, you support him. But from was on the Coverfox, which is not really an exploratory website where users coming once in a while to buy. You can take a call on whether you want to support a guy who's an IE6, who's going to come to you once a year to buy insurance. It's a business call. You take a trade-off. For supporting the IE6 user, I have to probably deploy a developer who has to write software just for IE6 support, right? So, or even for example, do you want to write an app? Do you want to have an app? So these decisions they will decide not to be in Coverfox as a work with browsers less than IE8, I think. And these are all driven by looking at the metrics. What is my, if I'm getting less than 0.1% of users from IE6, why would I want to, every time I deploy, I have to write a developer has to spend time to make a product compatible for IE6. So these are very simple decisions driven by just looking at data. You just look at distribution of browsers and you just simply take all, okay, doesn't make sense business point of view. The revenue I'm going to get from that crowd doesn't justify the cost of keeping that business team there. Okay. One more example, for our bike insurance product, we have completely kind of eliminated call center from that product. Essentially, there's no like calling happens. You give a number in Coverfox, you will never get a call from us, even if you ask us to, because that product has moved to completely unassisted flow. Why? Because again, the numbers, the revenue numbers from bike insurance as a low cost product doesn't make sense to support a call center. This doesn't require building any models, just looking at the cost of business. For example, why data capturing is important? Because we fetch a lot of data from real time from insurers. When you search for a particular car, the prices are fetched in real time from insurers. And sometimes in our interest is that we use a marketplace to give you as many options as possible. So at one point when we had done building our intelligence stack, we started collecting data from the point of view that how much of each search, what is it, if you're an insurer, what is the chance that you will be shown in that page, or you will serve your product for that particular search. And we gave this, and we observed a lot of insurers didn't have products matching the online market. So because on online market people are they might, what will happen is, okay, they might miss a particular variant of a model, or they might miss like a little model, and we started gathering this data and just giving it an Excel format. Okay, from this month in Coverfox, you did not appear in the first 50% of the results, you did not appear in the top 5 because, or you were too slow to kind of give me a response. So this data was very useful to them, because even they also have a website, but they never collect the data. So this kind of exploratory analysis where you're just giving plain insights on how to improve the product, how to our business team then would work with insurers to help them create more insurance product for these new models of cars or whatever. And essentially, and all this doesn't require modeling. This is essentially your simple exploration of data. So so I would say just start looking at data even before you think about modeling or analysis. Just get comfortable with looking at data, and look at a lot of data and just see that how can you slice and dice and just or visualize it or graph it to get some very, very basic insights. Okay. So this is something that I would say that is the first step.
Yeah, so I would just like to add one point here. So this reminds me of one of the projects did almost like 18 months back when I was still with Coverfox. So by just looking at the data, you can actually tell you should actually not take this particular action, right? Or you don't require much of a complicated sort of analytical technique to tell you that you should not use this particular things. To give an example, so you remember that the time of startups is not so good right now, right? So it started almost 2 years back, and thanks for people like housing.com and so on and so forth. But yes, it's very difficult to get funding. So now what has happened is everyone has gone into a phase of performance tightening sort of campaigns where people don't, nowadays if you see, people don't spend too much or heavily on the brand related stuff, right? So again, the same project was given to us as a data science team, that you need to ensure that we are running pretty tight and just cut down the campaigns or come up with a recommendation that few campaigns is not going to work for us or it is pretty much expensive for us, just cut it off, right? Now just imagine, just looking at the data, what we did is we looked at the cost per sale, the cost per lead, the cost per visit, blah, 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 blah. You actually just put across all your matrix. Now one of the key things which comes up is, like for example, the social media, right? Now social media, what happens is, now please, I'm talking from my business only, not talking from the e-commerce level. I'm talking from our insurance products only. So you need to also understand what will work and what will not work. Please imagine as a consumer now, right? If you're browsing through your Facebook feeds, right? If I just throw an insurance ad, the intent is not going to rise. Okay, it's not going to create intent on you. And I'm not pushing you to buy my product. It's not that one of the fine days you just surf your Facebook feed and buy insurance. The insurance is pretty much need-based product, and it is, since thanks to RTO, they have mandated this product. So you're not going to browse through social media and going to just buy insurance products. It is not going to happen. So what we did is we took a call that let's cut off social media campaigns and see what is the impact, right? Now we took a call to cut off the social media, all the campaigns of Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. And what we did is after that is we ran a marketing mix model, right? A marketing mix model is so called, so good, so fancy, so glamorous. It's nothing but a ridiculous regression model, right? But that's how a consulting can sell you, right? If you go to any consultant, you say we do marketing mix model. Hey, we don't do anything, we just do a regression model, okay? Now we regress the information, we try to predict what is the impact on my sale, right? I just saw the impact on the sale was just 2%. That's it, 2%. To throw some numbers, okay, I'm doing some multiplication there. We used to invest almost 80 lakh rupees per month, 80 lakh rupees per month on Facebook. Okay, one fine day, people like me presented to the management team, cut it off. It went off. What I did? Nothing. I just looked at the basic reports, basic numbers, took some marketing mix modeling, and that's it. We took a call, cut it off. 3 weeks down the line, the Facebook team from Hyderabad flown to our office. Hey, you know what? We'll do this, we'll do that. Yeah, thank you so much. You know, so they in fact hired a consultant. Okay, to just throw the result to me and say that there's an impact of 30%. And they in fact called my CEO. Hey, don't stop the campaign. Now, since they had a good relation, we didn't stop the campaign at that time. After 3 weeks, they told the impact is 30%. Oof. My analysis says 2 to 3%. This is saying 30% impact. I told, okay, here is a bet. Close it. If it impacts 30%, I'll go off. Yes, that's how startup works. ठीक है, थोड़ा फेंक दिया मैं. क्या जाएगा? Right? So yes, that's what we did. You know what is the impact? Just 1% of the sale after stopping social media. So that's why it is very, very critical what Deepak mentioned. Just look at the data, see what is the action you can take. And again, as rightly mentioned by Jacob, if you're not presenting an actionable insight to your clients, and for you the clients are for internal stuff, it's your management team. Just showing numbers won't help, but tell them what is the next action. So this is what just looking at the data can help you.
Do we have any questions?
So you spoke about math and how important it is. But math is like as good as data science itself. And like a person from commerce background might not be good at the engineering math, and an engineer won't be good at the stats and those part of math. So how do you and how much do you master each part of math? Because overdoing something might be that might affect your scope or might affect your accuracy as a data scientist.
Sure. So nowadays what happens is, it is the reason why I'm pushing for understanding of the math. I'm not saying that learn the entire subject of math, right? But I'll give you an example. Now, imagine you are working on a project, okay? And on the project you come up with some model. The model is logistic regression, okay? Now in the logistic regression, if you don't know what is p value, what is the t test, what is the z value, right? How are you going to reduce the variable, number one? How are you going to select whether this particular model is accurate for my data set? Right? Now, I'll give you an example. You take any data, n number of rows, n number of columns, you run logistic regression, right? It has to give you an answer. Now, whether that answer, the equation, okay, is it applicable for your data set or no? Right? So there's one more stuff. We do PC analysis, the principal component analysis. We do correlation matrix, right? Now, if you don't know what is a correlation matrix, right, why are you going to select that model, or why are you going to reject or select that particular model? That's the reason I'm pushing forward for. Understand the math, understand the stat behind it, okay? Now, I'm not saying that please learn everything. Now, even when you say, for example, what people do is, like engineers, they learn the basic stuff, the basic statistics, right? And vice versa for you, because since you're a commerce guy, maybe you're slightly good in the maths, or maybe the level of maths what you're dealing is still good enough. Learn some stats, learn coding, right? Do a balance of it. Because if there is no balance, it won't help us.
So basically, we need to learn those techniques only which we can use for that data.
Of course, right? So for example, if there's a data set. Now, as Jacob also rightly mentioned, for a particular model, what kind of data goes into, that is one. Okay. After that, when you process the particular model, when you build an analytical technique, okay, or use a technique, the outcome, if you're not able to decipher the outcome, what are you going to explain to your management team or to your client for that matter? Right? If he asks you, can you please explain what is the maximum likelihood and why it is minus 2038 and why you selected that model? So you need to just decipher it. Just try to make it much more simpler, right? It will help you to select the particular model for which data set it is.
Just to add what Jatin said, like, you know, in terms of what model to use. So you know, in neural nets generally it's a black box system. There's logistic regression, you can, you know, probably get more insights compared to, you know, neural. So if your client is say compare a trader who is investing in certain financial stocks, and you know you are advising him on what stocks to buy and what stocks not to buy. And at the end of the day, he is concerned only with whether my end of the day is it a profit or a loss. He's just concerned with that. Yes. Yeah. And consider a bank, right? Who is, you know, you are consulting him into what goes into, you know, whether this guy you need to give him a loan or not. Correct? So you can't really go and pitch a neural network to a bank. For a stock market, his goal is stock trader's goal is whether I'm in profit or loss. That's it. Nothing else. I don't want to know anything else. Correct? But for a bank, he wants to know, you know, what are the factors which are influencing that whether you need to give a loan or not. So you need to have in your armory few techniques. You just can't concentrate on one technique or two. You need to have few techniques in place so that you know what technique to, you know, use when. Right.
Another question is another question you just said about the overfitting. So is there a particular range where we need to stop or when we are analyzing?
So there's no particular range for it, right? I mean, there's no answer for it, first of all. But what normally people do is they try to actually overfit the model in such a way that they achieve that 90% sort of an accuracy. People look at more accuracy because more the accuracy of the test data or the trained data, that's the kind of accuracy they look at for the future validation data, right? So future set of data. and if they don't get it, okay, they are very much pissed off, right? So that's the reason the way we actually model it. The reason being because personally speaking, for me, if there's a model or any technique which is giving me 90% of accuracy, I actually doubt that model. I doubt. So what I do is I then try to put it into production, try to see what is the impact on my database, and we don't go into machine learning immediately, right? For a machine learning sort of a project, it is actually minimum 6 months of time. 6 months is when you actually look, you understand the data, you understand the feature data sets, how it is moving, you take into the seasonality into the picture, and that's how you go into the machine learning piece.
You take a lot of judgment calls based on trial and error and understanding.
Of course, it's an iterative call.
Not just statistics.
Yes, it's an iterative call because like people, for example, like people like us, we deal into like multiple variables, right? There are 500 variables in certain models. There are 30 variables into certain models, right? So which variables to select is again there's a science behind it, right? It's an iterative process. It's not that okay, I'm a lucky guy. I'm not like a Google me. You have I'm feeling lucky. Just click on it, it takes you to the website. So it doesn't happen that way in analytics.
So that's the the whole why the field of neural networks is coming up. The whole deep learning is they're trying to kind of automate this process of selecting which variables are useful, and so that's where the the whole thing is going towards kind of the way your one layer of your network will essentially tries to filter out what are the transformations you need for these features and what features are relevant, and that process being kind of automated by deep learning. That's why
Predictions we are making the automation of that.
Yeah. That can be done by any model. What I'm saying is why the field of deep learning is kind of
there is deep learning and there is the rest. Okay.
Yeah.
So in the rest, you need to engineer the features. Just in every variable, you can derive more features out of the current. So that goes as an input. Whereas in deep learning, you need to feature the data.
So just to kind of give you an idea what kind of maths is my view that what kind of maths you should concentrate on over here. So in the order of importance, first is linear algebra. I think the most important is linear algebra, and after that you need to probability and statistics will probably come to the same level, and then maybe a bit of calculus, a little bit of calculus. So these three are the only subjects that I think you should be covering the whole gamut of. Even if you talk about deep learning also, there's all the maths you require. You don't need to go beyond this. And but in the order of importance, the linear algebra I think is the most important, and you should be able to visualize 11 dimensions, kind of how to visualize more than 3 dimensions. So just you close your eyes and say 4, and you're using 4-dimensional version. That's how everybody does it. There's no way to do it.
You guys are actually very lucky in the sense, when I tried to get into this field and tried to go for courses and all this, there was none. So I had to take various courses on stats and diverse courses and accumulate all that information and create a coherent structure. You have a coherent structure now, right? So it's a lot more easier than what it was like 4-5 years back. So,
of course. I come from a different era altogether. I come from the Excel era. So you guys know, that there's a Excel miner tool. You remember? So just search on Google. It's a Excel miner tool. So I ran my first fraud detection model on Excel miner. But that's a beautiful stuff. I really love it. Again, as you rightly mentioned about the deep learning part, and yes, deep learning is separate. The other analytical techniques are separate. In the deep learning also, what number of hidden networks and all is something you need to analyze it. You need to actually consider it. So data is something you just don't push everything and run that model. It still won't give you your answer. Yeah.
Do we have more questions? Let us limit it to
As you spoke about automation data science, the first rule of automation, we need a stable environment. In data science, we don't get a stable algorithm data. So how we
Getting a stable data?
What is
Stable data? You mean data needs cleaning kind of?
Yeah. So first we need to clean, then we need to use for automation. This is automation is successful in data science at this stage. Or there is no lot.
You will see that the cleaning might require a lot of human intervention and
Yes, everything.
okay. So you can still build a validation pipeline, and you can so of course there can be bugs in your code which can missing data can come from corrupt data can come from various reasons. So for missing data we already have strategies which can be automated. For even if the data is corrupt, you can take a call. You can build a validation layers for data to kind of just please record data. Yes, you can still build an automation pipeline even if
The automation might take a lot of time because, as he said, there will be 50 million users.
Yeah.
So in that case, our automation is not developed for 50,000.
But there's ecosystems for big data also where data is like humongous. That's what the whole big data field is, where you can analyze. So you and mostly you will end up when we deploy data, you'll end up building some sort of computation cluster which will do the processing. Your laptops will just simply give you an intuitive understanding of the model, and but you will end up using your company's data clusters for deploying real models. So I don't think computing is a challenge there. Yeah.
So like we process millions and millions of rows, in fraction of a second. So computing is not an issue.
From some of the hundreds of Twitter accounts that I came across, from some of the hundreds of Twitter accounts that I came across for the world, I saw majority of them were specializing in, especially in data visualization. Yeah, so how are people different from India versus the world when it comes to that approach in data science?
Data visualization,
because from all news that I came across, all of them specialized only in data visualization. So I wasn't able to see anyone who was doing especially the engineering point of view. Like how
abroad or in India?
In abroad. Okay. So I wanted to know how is it different from how you are approaching India versus the world?
So I would say it's reverse actually. So in India normally what happens is if you go to any of the C-level guys, okay, not that C-level, I'm saying CXO, okay. Even if you come up with any graph or a dashboard, people will just clap and put analytics, right? People don't understand actually what is analytics in India, first of all. And if you look at the global market, barring India, the field is pretty much advanced, right? Now the people, I've seen a lot of people actually PhD in operation research and people actually studying operation research. Operation research is again the field which is pretty old, but nowadays people are trying to adopt that, like the statistics part. Like there's, the ISI Institute, right? And it was there since ages. But people nowadays, the amount of applications going through ISI just because of the M stats or B stats, because people know that I can do wonders if I just pass out statistics. So it is actually reversed. In India, people show a tableau, and I've seen a couple of candidates coming to me that, hey, you know what, I'm a manager analytics in particular, blah, blah, blah company. And when he actually comes to me and when I start interviewing it, he said, I've just implemented a tableau and also worked on Click.
So I just want to add to that. A couple of service organizations that I worked for, there were service lines for DI, and so all those 3,000 people used to do was just build dashboards in DI and ClickView. That's all they used to do. Recently, I think India has also realized that this is not a sustainable trend because globally things are very different, as you said. So they have renamed and retrained those people. Now the data and insights is the new word that they have given to those service lines, and they are reskilling people to do much deeper than just Tableau and.
So, but visual analytics is very useful in the sense if you are able to show me like 100 dimensions worth of data in 2 dimensions. Okay, that's the kind of visual analytics that I know we should focus on. Don't look at the regular 2-dimensional and say that that's visual analytics and stuff like that. But if you can show, from a data science perspective, if you can show a lot many dimensions in couple of dimensions for the user who can understand, then that's great.
And in fact, in the part of the analytics development, you do visualize a lot. So the first step is to visualize the data, to understand the scatter plots, to understand the box plot, for example. So there are multiple plots. So you actually visualize the data. Yes, it is very difficult to actually crunch the way he said, millions of records in 2D. It's very, very tough. But first thing is we visualize the data, understand the trend, select the variables, then you go deeper, and then build the model. Right? It's not that get data, you know Python, डाल दो अंदर, run neural networks, नहीं मजा नहीं आ रहा. Okay, run logistics, नहीं मजा नहीं आ रहा. Run clustering, okay, I think this is nice. Don't go with that. So we actually visualize and then go into deeper.
So I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for the